beautiful day in the neighborhood. Beautiful day in the neighborhood. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Would you be my neighbor? Check back and make sure we got volume and speed. This is Rayshawn's first time on the controls and working with the station, so we want to make sure that we are live and in living color. Got a lot of equipment over here to figure out. Got Mark on the phone. Let me see. It says I'm live. Let's see. Let's see if he did it. Let's see if he did it, and we are live. Did you check back with the station? Yep. They said we're good? All right, they hung up. So we got Rayshawn, so y'all have to hang, but he's been in here. He think he knows it, so he better. Because I've been saying for months, got to get ready. You know me, I like to know the controls, so I'm going to be learning the controls this week. And so welcome, everybody. It really is, around these parts, pneumonia weather. We go from really, really cold to really warm. I had on a coat today and a hoodie today and a T-shirt today.
You ain't put the long johns on yet, did you?
No, because Deacon Swain said that when you put on long johns for the season, you have to, you got to keep them on all season.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know how to switch over to his camera? Yeah. All right. I don't think you will be able to because, yes, you did.
You got me in 3D.
It's a little problem with the green screen a little bit. Probably got to put a little light on you. But it's all right. All right, grandson. He knew how to bring up the graphic on the now I don't know what he's bringing up now, but he bringing up the graphic. But go ahead and goof with it. I like it. I like it until you feel comfortable with it.
See, young fella.
You got to raise up. You know, one of the things we don't do is raise up. Carl, I hope they listening back. I asked her to staple something and bring it up. I think she just thought I wanted to staple it.
And I got a question for you, because I was driving over here.
Okay.
And I saw that incredible Christmas
billboard.
And I'm like, well, why is the baby's mouth's taped closed? They not supposed to talk on Christmas?
Oh, gosh. This dude, you probably go to a comedy show and be like, well, what did he mean by that? Why did he say that? It's a joke. Did you see the whole thing?
I did see the whole thing. I figured it was something because you know how you do things.
Oh, my.
You want to get people's attention. And I'm like, why are their mouths shut?
Oh, my.
Tape
Wait,
shut.
I want you to, this is what I want you to do.
Yes.
I want you to go back over there and I want you to look at the whole billboard. Maybe pull over in the gas station and look at the billboard and look at the baby on the bottom with tape in his hand that says, I did it. Oh, boy.
Okay.
You don't often go to comedy shows, do you? Do you watch comedy?
Yes, I do. I do watch comedy.
Because you missed the whole boat talking about that.
I should have went back and looked at it first.
I want somebody who's watching or listening to call back into my office at 895-8222 because they should be listening to the show to make sure that it is live, and tell Denise to bring up the papers I asked her to staple. Somebody call. Put her on blast. Because she should have it up so she's making sure the show is on. I got a lot to talk about today. Well, some important stuff. First of all, let me, I want to explain. Last week I was in Albany with the governor of the state of New York and some of the pastors from across the state as she is revamping the office that deals with faith-based organizations and combining it with nonprofits. And I think that's very important that the nonprofits, faith-based, get the attention that they need. And so she put together basically a roundtable, not just for kind of an advisory group, to help to get out information and to help give them information. And I thought it was very important. You know, I've been in this thing a long time. I've been pastoring 29 years. I've been through several, governors and all that. And a lot of times it's, they want you to come and listen to them and they don't listen to you. So we're at the mansion for dinner, and it's like A.R. Bernard. I don't know how I got in the room. I have no idea how I got in the room. But you got A.R. Bernard. You got Dr. Richardson out of Mount Vernon, New York, who is also the chairman of the board for the National Action Network with Al Sharpton. You had Carl Washington there, who is the president of the New York State, Empire State Baptist Association. I mean, the room is full. Not full. There were only about 20 of us at dinner. The governor, her husband, had a rabbi there, female rabbi, Muslim, who's there on the round table. Very balanced room, very balanced. Somebody from Catholic Charities, one of the head of Catholic Charities, pastor out of Syracuse. And so we were invited to have dinner with the governor. So the governor says, I want to form this group, and I want to have real conversation. I want to be advised on issues. I want to, these type of things. So she gives her spiel for about 15 minutes, and then I was sitting next to her husband, sitting across from her, A.R. Bernard, Dr. Richardson. And so when the foods start coming out, everybody just start talking amongst themselves. So I start talking to the governor's husband, who is the first, what do we call him? The first man of the state. The first man that's been the first man, because we never had a woman governor. And the governor goes, no. I didn't invite you all here to just listen to me. I mean, let's have one conversation for the next couple of hours and talk about some of the hot button issues and talk about how we, respond to these things and what's happening in your community. It was just wonderful. Wow. And one of the biggest things it was several things that came out of it. First of all, people didn't just want to go. I mean, you got some of the top pastors. And when I say top, I don't mean that anybody else is less. Right. Some of the well-known and well-connected pastors across the state. And one of her points was, I want to be able to share information with you all so that you can help disseminate it. Because there's money out there. There's money out there right now for churches and nonprofits to get grants for security. Since, we got all these mass shootings and all that. And one of the things that they brought up was like, it's not just about cameras, your computer system. Most of our computer systems are not really protected enough. So it's all of these things. So it's like, all right, I'm entrusting you all, but I'm not here for your church. I'm not here for your mosque. I'm not here for your synagogue. I'm here because you all have connections. And we need to continue to really put out this message of what our office has to offer. But one of the things I was concerned about, I don't want you to just give me information, because during COVID, when the government was shutting down churches, there was no conversation with the churches. If you remember, whether it was the county that I had differences with, or whether it was the state or the city, at the end of the day, when they were going to close down businesses, they had conversations with the leading business leaders. And I did feel at times that the church, and she was not the governor, right, but I brought that up, that the church was disrespected. You put us in the same area as theaters. What? Are you kidding me? No, the church is at times the only thing open in the community that can offer any solace. So at the end of the day, it was wonderful. Didn't know I was being appointed to this committee till I walked into the mansion, and Dr. Richardson out of Mount Vernon says, "Well, she's appointed," and I was like, "Oh no, I didn't know. I didn't know." But I probably would have left feeling like another dog and pony show, right, except for the fact that there was real conversation. And one of the biggest things that came up was about mental health in our communities, and she just went through the list of things that the government is doing with mental health. And they really are. And they're really sponsoring and funding a lot of agencies. And we see, I know in Buffalo, more mental health services in the inner community than I have ever seen in my lifetime. And I've said on this show before, we got more liquor stores than we had mental health agencies. And so it's, now cannabis, I mean, whatever you do, you adult, if it's legal, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, I don't want to see more cannabis stores and more liquor stores and not have places where people can deal with their mental health. So that was important. A very important meeting, very important the next day, the not press conference, but kind of announcement. So she appointed this woman by the name of Kara Washington, sharp African-American woman. I think she went to Princeton. Wow. She has a degree in theology. She, I believe, is a minister. No, I know she is a minister at Kara Washington's church in New York. I'm just talking about make sure you listen. Make sure you listen. Turn your little phone on and your little Facebook or whatever. So at the end of the day, it's so important. So she hired this woman. So I make a comment about, because people are talking about, Frank Bostic was there with Dr. Washington, and she talks about, everybody's kind of saying, we want to know how this works. Like, we don't feel like coming to no meetings, just coming to no meeting. This systems, she had the system. This, bop, 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 bop. So I'm very impressed with the direction that the governor is trying to go in when it comes to faith-based and non-for-profits, because especially in struggling communities, it is the faith-based and it's the not-for-profits that keep things going. And I don't care what anybody says, it is what it is. Let me see, I gotta adjust this. So that happened, and okay, grandson got it going. What'd they say, Bill's Mafia? Oh, no, I don't have on. Nope, I'm looking at the wrong thing, grandson. You got me on last week's show. You got me on. I'm 2 weeks away. Come on over here.
But you're live, though.
I'm live, but what I see is not the right show.
Well, let me say to you, because I know you don't like to take a lot of credit or nothing. But I was very grateful. I saw I think it was pictures of you being appointed, and I think it was so appropriate, because we need people who, it's not about me, and you're going to get that information and you're going to disseminate it. You're not going to just keep it to yourself.
Definitely.
And that's really important. But I'm really happy to hear about how the governor is operating, because for too long it just seems as though we're just like a spoke in a wheel.
Yeah.
And from what you're saying, it's not that. It's a whole different paradigm in which she's saying, I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
And it's just not me coming and spitting out my little 15 minutes. Y'all go home and talk about how great a speech I gave.
Absolutely.
But what happens with the information, and do people have the real opportunity to really get what she's saying? Because a lot of times, again, we just not connected. We don't have that information. It's out there, but we don't know.
But we don't know it. And that's why even on the grants that church can get for safety, once I get the packet, I'm gonna put it on social media.
Right.
You know me. I'm at the age and stage. I ain't got no time, and we're gonna be talking about this because we're gonna be talking about the 33 in a minute. I don't have any time to be trying to use social media for cloud. Doing this is a time that we need to be using social media to get ahead.
Yeah.
And so I will share it. I will share it with churches as much as I can of the addresses and that we have, and disseminating that information out so that people know what's available in their state. I'm going to have a little more time on my hand in a few days, about 20 days. Next week is Boxing Day for me, by the way. That's what I'm called. Next week, I'm boxing up my City Hall office and getting it ready for the transition that I am so looking forward to. Okay, so I wanted to explain that it's not a paid position. It's not a position that puts one church over another. It is definitely a position about disseminating information, getting information from not-for-profits, and being able to go to bat for them also with people who have the governor's ear, to be able to go and say, we need more of this, we need more of that, as it relates to not-for-profits. I'm not going as a lobbyist. I'm not going it is as it relates to not-for-profit organizations and faith-based organizations.
And it's interesting, the people that you talked about. Although you always diminish yourself, which I understand, your humility, but it seems as though there are people who are connected to the community that people trust and respect. And that's another big point. I think sometimes some of the times I see things and people are put in place, and I'm like, who are they? What do they do? and that's a barrier.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
but when you have someone that is well known in the community that most people trust and respect, that's helpful, because again, you need this information. You want to be able to go to this person or go to that organization and get that information and believe that, hey, it's not going to be the same old as you
Absolutely,
said.
absolutely. Because this city, and there's so many. I'm afraid to start naming not for profits, but yesterday, for instance, MVP was here. As one of our ministers was doing their initial sermon, and I talked about how important MVP is. I talk about how important Stop the Violence is. I talk about how important Mad Dads, all these organizations. If you see today, I have on the African American, what does it say?
Heritage Co-op.
Co-op heritage. That's food for our community. And I know that they had a little bump in the road. And, you know, we in the cancel culture now. So if you got a bump in the road, it's like, whether you believe it or not, it's, they ought to close. And you had other people trying to get the money that they were getting. I'm like, for real? And we're going to talk about that in a minute. Because at the end of the day, you know, and I got to say this, because big ups, I'm not of the big ups to Alex, because this was Alex's dream, and he was the one that began it. And regardless of what the bumps were, let's give this dude his respect, and that's what just sometimes gets under my skin. Give him the respect he deserves, because I wouldn't even be in this red shirt. He gave me this red shirt. He came up with this, and others in the community. But you know. That's
I mean, it kind of goes with what you're going to be talking about as far as the 33 and all the conversation that's out there. You know, sometimes I think that, you know, some people are like Johnny come latelys, they jump onto something. It's like, but where were you when we were talking about this? When we were doing things? And it's unfortunate, because at the end of the day, for me, you know, if I wasn't involved in it, I'm going to shut up.
Well, today I'm going to talk about the 33, but I'm also going to talk about how the community organize. And if you look at it, there is almost everything that starts in our community, in some way, there's somebody who comes along to derail it.
Yeah.
So I wore this red shirt today on purpose, because this was moving. Governor said, I'm giving millions, however million she's giving to this, especially after TOPS, right? You need more food, fresh food in your communities. Then when there's one bump in the road, you had other organizations in the community not saying, how do we get this back on track? Now, some did, thank God, and it's on track. But some who were saying, like, we want the money. And sending letters. I got a copy of one of them to the governor saying, oh, we'll take it over. Not going to the organization and saying, how do we work together? But we'll take it over. Give us the money. We'll build it somewhere else, which would mean that there would be an abandoned building in Fruit Belt, and that the work that the people who have been doing would not have occurred. And I see it happening over and over and over. And then we wonder, why nothing? Because we have not really engaged in how we can work together. And what happens, and I'm going to say it, in this community, this is all I know. What happens in this community is we lose out on millions upon millions, and now probably $1 billion, because we attack each other instead of working together on an issue. And there's got to be grown people in the room, because it's got to be more than who's going to get on 2-4 and that other channel. It's got to be more than that. Who's going to be on TV? Who's going to get the headline? Who's going to look like they're the leader? This is the same, and I almost said the D word, same daggone thing that happened over in Martin Luther King Park. Instead of the concentration being, you want a bust of Martin Luther King? Let's work on that. You want a statue of Martin Luther King? Let's work on that. But what did it turn into? That doesn't look like the head. That doesn't look like Martin Luther King. Then you have people who came out and say, it wasn't supposed to. We worked on this for years. When Cliff Bell came out and said it was not, and showed the receipts, It became prison doesn't support that. It became personal instead of becoming about an issue. And this is this is what we've been taught. This is what we were taught after we got off of these ships. This is what we taught when we were brought here. Just throw a little bit of attention to them, throw a little bit of light to them, and they will devour themselves. Yeah. Buffalo, I'm telling you, this is my problem. Now, let me just say this from the beginning. If you want to know whether I support the 33 changing, yes. And the reason is because when I was first elected over 12 years ago, to the Ellicott district, one of the first meetings I was brought into was about, Clark Eaton was alive, was about the 33. Mm-hmm. Nobody, when I say nobody, was coming to me saying, no, it's a bad idea. Mm-hmm. No, it's it's been out there for over a decade or something, 2 decades. It's been out there. Nobody came. So now that the money is there for it to be started, it's like, oh no, we shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that. And I got it. And so I'm not attacking anybody. I'm trying to teach a new paradigm that we don't know around here about how to work together, because you don't have to agree with the whole plan. Right. But the reason they had the community meetings was so that you could be heard. I attended not one of them. Mm-hmm. And I didn't attend one of them, not because I wasn't in it. Mm-hmm. I didn't want it to be about me, because it then elected officials, y'all this, y'all that. It's not. That's why we don't get a daggone thing done. Yep. We don't get a thing done in our communities. We get the crumbs, and because they know we're going to fight each other, and then other people from outside who know how to organize. But I want to know, why wasn't there that argument when we were spending $1 billion down at Canal Side? Yeah. Why wasn't it the argument of this is a waste of money when we do the Outer Harbor that for concert? Why? Yeah. Nothing. And there was no protest from us about what was happening downtown. Yeah. But when it's happening in our community, I'm not saying this plan is perfect at all. Mm-hmm. I'm saying that at the end of the day, where people are saying, take that money and put it somewhere else, they're not going to do that. Right. So we lose $1 billion because of the fact sometimes we can't get out of our way and know how to work together, and it becomes personal. So I've been quiet on it because I'm like, I don't feel like being, listen, I didn't took the hits, I didn't took the battles, I didn't hit back, I didn't did all that. So, I'm at a point, I just need a few months. I just need to be quiet. I just want to be quiet. But I can't be quiet on something, and I'm not making it personal about somebody else, because they have a right to their opinion. Right. But we got a right, we need to get it together.
Yeah. And I think that goes to leadership, and it goes towards mentorship, because we're always seems like we're taught to go against something just to get the spotlight. But is it something that's really going to help our community? I didn't go to any of those meetings. I know that Sidney Brown was a part of it, and some folks in Hamlin Park, they were a part of those meetings. And so at the end of the day, do I think the money could go elsewhere? Absolutely it could. But guess what? I wasn't in the meetings. I'm not going to undo what somebody else did for 15, 20 years. How do you do that? I saw Sydney at an event the other day, and I told her straight to her face, let me tell you, I applaud you all. You stood the course. You didn't give up. I kept on, in my mind, I'm like, this ain't gonna ever happen. But those people who had the faith that continued to work the phone and work to the elected officials, how do you go against these people and what they did? They were putting in the work while you were sleeping, while you were making up your mind or deciding what else you were going to do, and to come and go against them, I just think it's totally disrespectful. And it's disrespectful to people who could have been doing other things. Yeah. But they stayed on the wall for this.
Rashid, I don't know if you remember when we were doing the radio show in the subway, and I said 2 things. I told people to buy land in the Fruit Belt.
Yes, you did.
I told people to buy land. I was not an elected official.
Nope.
I said buy land in the Fruit Belt now. Buy land in the Fruit Belt now. I had bought a empty vacant lot for less than $800. Mm-hmm. I said buy land in the Fruit Belt. I don't know if you remember, I said grant money is going to divide us. Mm-hmm. I've said that all you got to do to some people is dangle a little money and make it seem like somebody else is getting more than the other, and it divides every single time. And I'll be so glad when we understand economics and we're not dependent on grant money for our communities, because we have businesses and we have the wealth and we have those things that now it might not be in my lifetime, but I pray that this next generation understands the importance of Kwanzaa, what we talk about once a year, basically, and then the rest of the year, we're fighting against each other. So some of the organizers who are still left: Richard Cummings, Sidney Brown, Richard A. Cummings, Richard C. and Richard A. Cornelius Johnson, and I'm just going to read a little bit before we go to break. You could do break, all right? I mean, see, I raise up a child.
That's it.
Raise up a child.
Yes, sir.
Raise
yes,
up.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Inside, and Mark, you did a good job teaching him how to run this thing. Next week, I'm going to learn it. I'm going to sit behind the controls next week. You know, I got to know. I can never. It's like being in the backseat of a car and you can't drive your own car. Nah, bruh. I'm getting ready to retire in 20-something days.
Your DNA.
I'm going to know all that system. So if I got to come in here and run it myself.
So I'll be over there.
You can sit over here if you want to. Inside the 19th century, and this is out of Buffalo News, an article by Mark Summer, dated November 6th. So this is fresh. I'm just going to read a little bit so that people know the history. Inside a 19th century stone farmhouse in Hamlin Park, a 10-year-old model depicts the reconstruction of a portion of the once grand Humboldt Parkway. A lot of people don't know how it looked and what it was above a covered section of Kensington Expressway. It's that concept conceived by Eastside resident Clark Eaton Jr. in the late 1970s. And that shaped the nearly $1 billion plan announced by Governor Hochul in January 22 to attempt to return part of the expressway corridor to its former look and feel. Eaton's idea hung in the until Restore Our Community Coalition, also known as ROCC, adopted it around 2008. It was part of a larger vision. Let me say it again. Wasn't just about covering it.
Right.
It was part of a larger vision to restore majority black neighborhoods that spiraled downward after construction of highways. Because Clark Eaton wasn't just talking about covering it. He was like, okay, let's cover it and then expand these opportunities that were once there. Quote, nobody believed in the concept other than a few people who sat around the table for 15 years and said this is doable. Said Richard Cummings, one of several ROCC members who met last week with the Buffalo News Reporter inside the former farmhouse at 60 Headley Place, which we still have in the city's inventory. Hochul and a coterie of Western New York lawmakers, including Majority Assembly Leader, Crystal Peoples-Stokes, Representative Higgins, State Senator Kennedy have lavished praise on ROCC and its chairwoman, Stephanie Barber Jeter, for their steadfast commitment to the project. Here's my point. This didn't start in a vacuum. Yeah. This was not secret. It has been very public process. And the public should be involved in making any changes that are necessary. I am afraid that what is happening is the same thing that happened to the Skyway. Yeah. When they wanted to bring it down, there's no reason to be able going up all the way up in that air, bring the traffic back down to the ground, and guess what? 10 years later, the Skyway is still there, and the dollars are gone, and leadership has changed. Kathy Hochul will not be governor forever. End of the day, that money sits there. It's not as if we're going to be able to get it somewhere else. Listen, I'm going back over to the station to pay the bills, and to pay the bills right here on social media in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
When it comes to something as personal as your clothes, you need to deal with somebody you can trust. That's why so many people turn to Hobson's Dry Cleaning, conveniently located in the heart of the community at 874 East Delavan at the corner of Wyoming.
When you take your clothes to Hobson's, you can trust that they'll be ready on time.
You can trust that your whites will be white.
You can trust that you'll always get a fair price and service with a smile.
You can even trust that you won't have to get out of your car if you don't want to. Hobson's has a drive-through window for your convenience.
Trust is what it's all about at Hobson's Dry Cleaning.
Hobson's Dry Cleaning, your one-stop dry cleaners serving the community for over 30 years at 874 East Delavan at the corner of Wyoming. Call 891-8298. That's 891-8298.
Ryan K. Lewis Funeral Home has 3 locations to serve you in Buffalo. The 347 Peckham, 2258 Bailey Avenue, and Providence Memorial Chapel at 1275 Sycamore. Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes offers traditional services, and they have services for all faiths. And at Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes, they have air-conditioned parlors and chapels. Financing is available, as is limousine service. At those difficult moments in your life, Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes is available where you are with counseling services. Call toll-free 877-885-7734. That's 877-885-7734. Or locally 845-5545. Brian K. Lewis Funeral Homes. We are here to serve you, here to serve this present age. Call today, toll-free 877-885-7734. Or email info@brianklewisfuneralhome.com.
Some of the comments on Facebook, May Bynum so right. Marie Whiteman, unfortunately, it's true. We don't stick together. Amber Bowling says, I'm back. May Bynum, we have to learn how to work together. That's huge. I mean, huge problem to get on one accord. And Sharita Ingram says, we need to learn to agree to disagree and still work together. These comments, they're knocking it out of the box. It is okay to have a difference of opinion. But we tend to make it so personal because somebody else thinks differently. And we want to put people's name in the mouth and make them like a demon because they want to participate in the process. I might not agree with people who are like, don't do anything to it, leave it there. I don't agree. But I don't have to demonize you. And we gotta understand that these processes and systems that we need in place are what make businesses successful. And the reason sometimes our businesses are not successful is because we will dog a business out. Instead of, I talked about the other day when I come in town, or I was out of town for over a week, and when I came back in, I wanted something that was just buffalo. And I went right down there to Solo Eats and got my food and bragged about it. Because this is how systems that are successful succeed. I'm going to go back to the 33, but I'll say this. When people say, why doesn't Jefferson look like this community or that community? As if the government did something different. There were grants for storefronts on Fillmore, and some people are taking advantage of it, some people are not. You got to have your paperwork together. You got to be doing. You can't have a store you ain't paid taxes on, don't have any paperwork, been open illegally for 10 years, and get mad that we can't give you money. But they also put their money together, and that's why I want to leave to the Jefferson Business Association some money out of discretionary so that they can continue to grow. We put up the Christmas lights, our Christmas stuff. I had a person, why we can't have more Christmas lights? Well, we had a blizzard the day 2 days after I put up the lights, and most of our stuff was ruined. But at the end of the day, some of these things are what private business does in different communities. And at the end of the day, it's about being organized. Let me give you this, and then we'll go back to the discussion. This is about, and this is from our model for community change from one of the universities, and it talks about this, a checklist, that you understand that success in community organization comes through experience with practitioners must be able to both understand and create conditions under which community organizations have a chance for success, not just fighting. Community planners need to help people agree on common goals. Do we agree at least that the 33 in its current condition is not optimal? Lung disease, asthma. So you got people complaining about that, but then saying, but we don't like that plan. Okay, what is it? How do we get to that place? Understanding and addressing opposition and resistance when needed. That doesn't mean fighting against them. It means, listen, here's our plan and here's why. We know in everything there's going to be opposition. Every good thing nothing good is going to come without opposition. Promoting community change, influencing systems, achieving community level improvements. I've got so many examples of how to come together. Problem is, so many people don't want to really hear that because it would take away their spotlight.
When we had the conversation, what's missing in the black community, and please, folks, it's not dead. we're going through the holiday, and I want people to focus on the holiday instead of focus on this. But one of the things that was brought up over and over again, we cannot work together. And the other piece is we have to have sound leadership.
It's
People
in here.
who know how to address differences. We can't just because someone throws out something and it goes against what we believe, demonize them. It's like, how do we come to a common ground? Because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about getting something done, not just getting it done your way. And some of us have so much of an agenda, we can't get it because it's our agenda and not the people's agenda. Dr. Taylor said one of the things that he talked about as far as what's missing in the Black community and how we start preparing and planning to have an agenda for our community is that we have to come up to a consensus and agree upon something and move in that direction. But it comes from the community, not from government, not from the council, not from the governor. It comes from the people. But if we can't get along, then you leave it to government to make decisions that many times we don't like.
Absolutely. This other article called A List of Best Community Outreach Strategies talks about empowering the community. Community organizing provides a clear path to take action, which these men and women did.
Yes, they did. Clearly.
And now it's like, oh no, we didn't know. That's not fair. It brings people together to identify common problems and interests, collaborate and coalesce, and take collective action to address social, economic, and political issues. Fruit Belt Land Trust that I supported. Unfortunately, at times they couldn't get out of it the way.
Right.
And it's I can give you the support. I can bring you to the water. I can't make you drink.
But I go back to a time when we had founded the Concerned Citizens Against Violence Coalition. There was a lot of opposition against us.
From inside of our community.
But we had people who were leaders who was, the Mrs. Richardson and those folks and Miss Ball who stood with us.
Florence Ball,
and some of those folks we needed to give us guidance because we didn't do. Sometimes you don't know what you don't know.
There was no other organization at that time addressing the violence.
Right.
And when we came along, you are totally right. We didn't go against what the Florence Balls had did and what Eve had did, and what we didn't go against. Like you said, we needed them.
Yes.
And then we fed off of them, but we knew that they were at an age and stage where they were looking for somebody. Come on, let's. So the second thing in this about organizing, that organizing gives a voice and sense of agency. Power found in unity allows marginalized and impoverished communities to finally have a say in issues that matter most to them. It shifts their focus from individual helplessness and grants a sense of agency. Now I'll give you an example. Every year, we talk about potholes. Every single year. Oh, the government ain't doing this. You had an elected official that came up with a job that their main job is to address potholes, infrastructure, all that. That job was filled the 1st of December. It is going to be staffed by Mark Pope. You heard anything but crickets? Because it's easier to criticize than to say, oh, something got done?
Oh, yeah.
Something really got done that we're going to have a person, because I'm already writing a letter to Mark. Northampton was redone a few years ago. It's already cracking down the middle. It needs to be filled. Several people have had work done to their houses and had their plumbers and everything cut in the street. All of them is now making potholes. We got to work together. I'm not going to attack Mark. I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, and Mark is not doing this. I'm going to work with Mark.
Right.
Even as a citizen, you got to work together. 3, it improves social and economic conditions. People gain more access to decision-making processes and have improved civic engagement and a sense of community and belonging. They can confidently lobby to improve their social and economic conditions. And that doesn't mean, because folks, what I want you to see is that just going down to City Hall to cuss out your leaders, what did it bring? Nothing. It brought nothing but chaos and some camera bites. But it didn't bring change. When we did Fruit Belt Parking, we got Fruit Belt Parking done, the first in the city of Buffalo's history. Because we worked with Fruit. At first, it was a little contentious. Oh, they don't want. And when they found out that they had a council member, that was like, no, I'm going to bat for you. But we got to go to bat together. And when we went to bat together, we still are the only community with residential parking. Land trust, only community, land trust. And I'm not bragging, but I'm saying these are the results of working together, period.
When you elect a leader, that leader needs your support to get things done. And it's not just your vision, it's the community's vision. I'd say it, you say it all the time. I work for the people.
Yes.
I work for the people. So if you tell me that this is what you want, I'm going to stand with you to get it done. But you can't beat me up and tear me down as I'm doing it because it ain't going to work. So I think that's one of the things that we have to learn is that we have to get leaders who we're going to support. Sam Radford is one of those people. I was looking at a show from 2016 when
Yes.
Sam Radford, we had a show on
Yes.
Power to the People.
Yes.
We were talking about the whole issue with Simonelli. Sam Radford came together because he had a vision for parents having a voice. And he stood, and he's still standing. And I said, those are the type of people that we need in our community that we have to identify and support because they give us dividends. That parent group that he has now, that he's helped organize, are making a difference.
Absolutely.
But you had to have someone that had a vision, and you can't go against those people. You support them. You may have a difference, even like a restaurant. You talk about the restaurant. You may not like something that happens there, but you don't go tear them down. You say, hey, sir, ma'am, what about this? What about that? You encourage them because that's how we stimulate each other.
Absolutely. Influential community organizing strategies. One, build relationships. We're in an era right now where people, their relationships is on Facebook. And they think that the comments on Facebook, that those are their friends and supporters. Build real relationships. Relationships that are going to help us move forward. Identifying allies. But what the problem in building relationships with us is that then you call it a sellout.
Yeah.
If you build relationships outside of your community. So you got to build relationships inside of your community and build relationships outside of your community. You got to build relationships in the political arena. You got to build relationship in the academic arena, or else we ain't getting nothing. We're not getting anything unless we build the types of relationships that lead us to success. There are people who are happy we're fighting against each other. And there are media outlets, and I'm calling it out, who love to put on the negative more than they do, because they create the scenario. They take and make this scenario what they want it to look like. So every time somebody opposes something in our community, they're the ones on TV, opposition to da-da-da, opposition to this, opposition to that. It gets people to click over. The algorithms are there. And what happens at the end of the day? We fail. There's a study that I think it was in the paper, about how many African Americans are getting mortgages around here. And that the majority of African Americans getting mortgages are not getting them for in the city. They're getting them for the suburbs.
Wow.
Because there's some people who didn't checked out. They're like, nah, we gone. I'm not doing this no more.
Yeah.
I ain't doing it no more. I didn't fought the good fight. I didn't finish the course. Now there's laid up a house for me in Amherst. That's what some of them are saying.
And you understand that. But the thing is, sometimes we feel like we got ours and we out.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate, because if those people who stood and sacrificed for us to get what we have today would have just checked out, where would we be?
Well, I've heard people say, I remember when I bought the house on Northampton. It wasn't a house then, but whatever. And hearing people say, he gonna drive up our property taxes. What? I remember Monique going out to get a signature for me, and she went around the corner, went to a house, random house, and guy says, I'm not signing for him. My rent about to go up because of him. Because watch our property values go up. But owners want their property. Don't you want your property value? Because if your property value, it doesn't mean you're going to pay more taxes, but because we don't understand the taxing system and that there is a cap, and that when you do a reval, there's going to be some other houses that bring up that cap, and you may even pay lower taxes. But I digress. Building relationships, identifying allies, develop a clear message, mobilize your volunteers, establish local leadership. That's what I want to get to. I'm going to say it again, establish local leadership. Engage in direct action. Use digital tools to get out your message. Build power. And listen to people. Let me say it again. Listen to people.
Keep it simple.
Show up to events. Go to events and meetings that are important to the community. Have a large attendance. Now we got people who know how to do that, but it's only to intimidate and not to work together. It's to intimidate, not to cooperate. I done said it. I'm getting too old to keep saying it, but I'm gonna keep on saying it.
But some of those things that now I consider you one of my mentors. When we've been out here for many years doing this, and before I was behind, and now I had to come to the front. And it was something that I remember you doing and having those relationships and being able to communicate with people. And I think today when you talked about being with the governor and saying, oh, we got all these other folks, but you've always been that type of person. And there are people that should be learning from those who we came before. Like you talked about Mozella Richardson.
Yes.
Miss
yes.
Florence Ball.
Yes.
Those people, even George Carey, those people who were community people that we can learn from. And if we're not taking the spirit of what they did and how they cooperated and how they worked together, I go with an example of, I didn't know this until I was just reading something someone had posted on Facebook about the NICYO. That was founded by Butch Holt. But I didn't know that Butch Holt and those people who were a part of that were played basketball for Buffalo State.
Yes.
And I'm like, wow, but they had relationships.
Relationship.
And those relationships created something that is still in existence tonight to this day, the NICYO. So it's important, if you're going to have a strong foundation of people who want to get things done, who will make a difference. Those many children, like me, I was a Mayor Summer Youth Worker from NICYO, and now I'm a council member. There are things that we will put in place that will help others down the road. But if we don't work together, we don't create relationships, those things never happen.
So part of this, I agree with you, Seek. How do you identify allies in your community? And it says, ask these questions. Who is already working on the issue? Thus my red shirt. Instead of you give me the money.
Yep.
If he's already working, that group is already working.
Support it.
Who's already working? Who is working on the issue closely related to mine? What are the steps they have taken? Understand the steps they have taken. What are they currently doing? How is their journey going? How can I collaborate with them? So some of those folks are like, well, we don't want this pipe or whatever spewing it out. Okay, I got you. I'm applauding you. But at the end of the day, collaborate instead of doing all of this for the media. And you know who we making money for? The people who own 2, 4, and the other channel and the news. That's who we making money for.
I'm working on an issue right now that Stan Martin brought to me regarding menthol and vapes. And you know that's a big issue right now in our city. We got vape stores all over the place. Yeah. And so I told Stan, I said, I'm going to work with you. He already had the contacts with the state. He already working with Roswell. So we're taking his information and we're formulating it to propose a ban on menthol and flavored vapes, which is affecting Black and brown communities dramatically. But some of these stores are still selling it. And so I'm like, I'm going to work with him to make this happen. But again, you said a relationship. Who is doing more on this? How can I plug in? How can I assist? And that's what your elected official is willing to do in many cases when you bring them something to say, hey, this is what it is. And now how can I work? What have you done to bring it to? Because you make the work easier for me now. I don't even have to legislate because you already put the data and information. They got incredible data. But that's what you're talking about right now.
Well, and one of the reasons, because one of the points is who else is influential and could support you, even if they don't work closely on this issue. One of the reasons that I'm talking about this issue today is because I got a call or text from another pastor who also has a radio show. And he asked me my opinion on this. And I thought I had made my opinion clear, but he didn't know. And when I got done, his words to me in the text was, the community needs your voice. And I didn't answer for a day because I'm thinking, listen, I took enough punches for this community for the rest of my life. But then I realized I still have this responsibility, whether I'm elected or not. And I have the right to have an opinion. And I also have a right that I'm not going to be fighting with everybody. I will fight for an issue. I'm not fighting a person. I don't have that energy. I don't have that in me to do. It's not how I want to live the rest of my life. I want to fight for issues. I ain't fighting with people. The Bible, I don't want to even get, it's not about flesh and blood. This is about principality. But at the end of the day, I do think that it is important, that, for whatever reason, and I've been demonized for having different relationships. Oh, he in bed with this person here. No, I just got some people's cell phone numbers. And when I need to get something done, I know how to make a call, and I know how to keep it legal, and I know how to do the right things in order to get what I need to get done in different areas. And that's not a crime.
Right.
Other communities build relationships. You're going to be in banking industry and you want to do something, you got to build relationships. Anything you're going to do, if you're going to do a church successfully, you got to build relationships. And if you don't build those relationships and you think you're just going to be a dictatorship, bruh, we ain't getting nothing done. Or you think you can get on social media and just holler about, and this person ain't doing this and this person ain't doing that. I got a question. You got to examine what are the people who saying that nobody else is doing, what are they doing? Besides giving these opinions, and opinions matter. But at the end of the day, working is what's going to get it done. So I just, this whole 33 things, so many things in our community that we need to be working together. We just did a groundbreaking. Unfortunately, didn't really get covered. It was the last thing that I asked to do, and that was for the $21 million for Johnny B. Wiley. I negotiated that with the administration to get $21 million. And what I've said is, Leah's on her way into the seat. There's going to be no groundbreaking with Leah, and I'm the one that, I worked on this for almost 10 years to finally get the money over in the Fruit Belt and Maston Park area that Johnny B. Wiley so much deserves. And I did that, and I wanted to leave the council. We just filed a bunch of resolutions about housing and fair housing, and so those will be before us Tuesday and on their way to committee. And I'll be back in front of the council to push those items at times. But the committee, the independent committee that is made up not of rubber stamp official appointees, but of real people from our community that have been fighting for these issues. And some of them who used to fight against each other on issues are now sitting down at the table and working for the good of the people. And that to me is a big deal. I had an attorney give me he wants to give me a going away retirement party. I'm like, if I was retiring from everything, then I would. I'm not. I don't want to do a retirement party on Friday, and I got to come to church on Monday. I'm still working. But at the end of the day, one of the things that he said to me, and we didn't always see eye to eye, and that's the great thing. When somebody you didn't always see eye to eye on certain issues comes up to me, he says, often, this is what he said, you were the grown man in the room. Because I've always just tried to find where can we meet? We don't have to agree. But where can we meet in order to get things done? 33, $1 billion is going, I'm telling you, is not going to come in this community if we don't figure out ways to work together.
And the people who worked for that, I mean, you said you went back as far as 1970.
Yes.
I mean, how do you do something like that? And if it doesn't happen, then shame on those who were the agitators to go against it, because I agree it could be a little bit better, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to go against what someone has sacrificed over 30, 40 years to make happen just because I didn't participate. It's on me.
Especially if that money is not going to go to someplace else.
It ain't going to go in our community.
Especially if it's not going to stay in that community. And if you looked at the plan and you see the plan, like you said, I agree. There needs to be some change. Would I like to see the 33 filled in? Absolutely.
Yeah.
I absolutely would. Is it practical that that's going to happen? And then you're going to have people saying, because now Fillmore is smaller with bump outs that I don't agree.
Yeah.
I'm sure that once I leave office, I have fought against bump outs on Jefferson since I've been. I'm sure the bump outs are going to appear. So that means you fill it in. Now you didn't come up with this urban plan and bikeable community and walkable. Where these cars going to come into the city? Oh, let them come around. It's very impractical that it will happen. But let me say this. It should be a part of the conversation.
Right.
And the conversation shouldn't be what just kills it.
Right.
The conversation should be about cooperation to take a plan and make it into an even better plan.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we lack as a community is the ability to understand negotiations. Because it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be my way or the highway. Let's take something and then start building around it. Can we get an agreement for this down the road?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we get an agreement for that down the road? Let's get some of those things formalized in writing, just like I believe what April is doing with the level up for the Bills.
Yep.
You know, I mean, we wanted the Bills in Buffalo.
Yep.
But since we didn't get them in Buffalo, let's get something.
And
now we're going to get something. And they're still working with that.
Right, and I want to get more than crumbs.
Yeah.
I want to get more than crumbs.
Absolutely.
And I'm not afraid to say that I want to see people of color, especially who have been marginalized and who have been left out. I want to see some of them get rich and not just rich, wealthy, so that we begin to control our own communities. Listen, I got to throw it back over to the station. Rayshawn, you did a wonderful
Masterful.
job today. I have to say,
Young
he's a
master.
smart young man. And I'm grateful to have younger people around me. Because Rashid, if you had to run that thing, you'd be.
We'd be in trouble.
We don't, when I'm running this, we gonna be in trouble. You're gonna have a blue screen behind you. I'm throwing it back over to the station. Hobson's the Dr. Dry Cleaning is who keeps us here, and Brian K. Lewis. They got the real commercials over there. Until next week, we say power to the people.